Sports Talk Chicago. Here for Jon Zaghloul, and we are back and ready for today's special guest. He's a fantasy football expert for NFL Network, or Reddit for NFL.com, and the host of the Sick Podcast. Please welcome Adam Rank to the program. Adam, it's great to have you on. How are you?
Oh my gosh, so great to be back once again. Thank you so much for having me. It's a fun time, so to speak. A lot of optimism in the air. A lot of a little verklempt too over some of the people that will no longer be with the team. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but there's excitement as well. So this is a good time.
How do you feel about the Akeem Hicks news? I know that broke just a little bit ago.
Well, let's be realistic. He was not going to return to the Chicago Bears. We just aren't close enough to the Super Bowl for it to be worthwhile for him. He's at the end of his career. So it makes sense that he goes out there and he gets an opportunity to go chase a ring. And to be perfectly honest with you, I love the fact that Allen Robinson went to Los Angeles. I love that Akeem went to Tampa Bay. Like I'm going to pull for both those teams once the Bears get eliminated. Hopefully they don't, but you know what I'm saying? I feel good about it. So again, like I'm bummed, we wish this could have worked out, but at the same time, the human beings that are on, who are out there still playing football, we're happy for them. They're in good situations. So I wish them nothing but the best.
What kind of legacy do you think he leaves here in Chicago?
He was one of my favorite players. I think that he was one of those guys that we will look back on in, once we've had some time away from this. I don't know that it's quite of the like Lance Briggs type players or Mike Brown or somebody like that, but maybe on the next tier. He wasn't drafted by the Bears. He did arrive to us. He chose to be here. That's the one thing about him and Allen Robinson. They chose to be here. They weren't drafted here. So I don't know if we should have more fondness for guys who were drafted here or true Bears, so to speak. But I do think that he's gonna end up being in that class. And I think that, I'll rescind that a little bit. I think that when we do look back, he is going to be one of those guys that, along with Matt Forte and players like that we wished we could have just done better for them. And I hope it comes down to this. I hope it's a situation where Justin Fields is so good that we now look back at players like that and be like, no, if Akeem Hicks had just signed 2 years later, he would have been on this amazing Super Bowl run with this team. But, I think that and listen, if you spend any time on Twitter when this happened, like people love him. And I think it's great. I don't think that nobody's upset with him. Nobody's got a bad word to say. Everybody completely understands the situation. And so I think he's going to be well regarded in Chicago. And again, like anytime, I don't think he's going to have to ever purchase a Diet Pepsi or a soda or a whatever his beverage of choice is. He should never have to purchase one in Chicago again. We should love. He was a great player for us, and I'll forever. He's beloved by me, so hopefully everybody else as well.
Especially if he chose to come here during the John Fox era. I mean, that's a questionable choice to say the least. So he made a tough one there.
Questionable, but I think that I honestly, it really comes down to the Matt Nagy hire just not being what it was. I think the process was sort of correct. I think, this is one of the things too, when people evaluate the draft and they talk about teams like the Giants and the Jets, they're like, God, they had a great, or even Detroit, great drafts, great plan. And I always say that, like, listen, the plan is sound. And if you look back at what Ryan Pace was trying to do, the plan was sound. He brought in some great defensive players, Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack. He brought in some great offensive talent, including Allen Robinson. Kevin White did not work out as well, but, I understand the theory there. I think everybody got caught up in Odell Beckham Jr. being so good the previous year that Kevin White seemed like a good idea, although I think we probably would have ended up drafting Vic Beasley at any other time. And then you look at, hiring Matt Nagy, the process was correct. I don't think the process was correct with Mitch Trubisky like that. I drafting a quarterback. Yes, that quarterback. Absolutely not. There was nothing about that there was nothing that you looked at and were like, well, this guy could be a good player. I understand. Like, I try not to drag him so much, and I'm hopeful. I wish he would have gotten an opportunity in Pittsburgh, but at the same time, man, on the field wise, You cannot look at what Patrick Mahomes, and I was more of a Deshaun Watson person on the field, Deshaun Watson only, exclusively on the field. There was nothing about Deshaun Watson that led you to believe that he was not going to be a good NFL quarterback, which to me, again, I liken Justin Fields to that as a lot as well. Like we saw Justin Fields in a Power 5 conference dominated Trevor Lawrence. Like, why was he not the number 2 person? Why wasn't there a discussion about him being number 1? So I feel like that was a misstep. So I don't know if it was a questionable decision. I like the process of what was going on, but obviously, we've started over, so it didn't quite work out.
Adam Brank, you're on Sports Talk Chicago. Adam, what do you make of Justin Fields' rookie year?
It was a combination of things, and I really wish I could give the person credit who pointed this out. It was on Twitter. It's on Bears Twitter. It might have been Shagru. It might have been somebody. It wasn't Patrick Sheldon, who I've now written off because he's put ketchup on his hot dog. I will say that somebody was talking about this, about Josh Allen and Josh Rosen both were disasters in their rookie seasons. But Josh Allen gave you enough tape to be like, okay, this guy should be good. There's plays where you're like, okay, this guy's got it. He can deal. And I think with Justin Fields, there was plenty of that. And I talked about this on Total Access Monday night on Memorial Day. Is we watched the play. We ran back the play from Pittsburgh, the go-ahead touchdown after the ridiculous taunting penalty. And you just look at the way Justin Fields composed himself, like getting out of the pocket, communicating, having the chemistry with Darnell Mooney knowing exactly where to be. Justin Fields putting the ball the only spot you could to, number 1, not get intercepted. Number 2, to make sure he gets both feet down. Those kind of things stick out. And I think when you go into a situation and you go into and honestly, we would have liked to have seen more of that. And if there would have been a coach who entered last season with like, oh, sorry, Andy Dalton, this guy's getting all the number 1 reps. We're changing the offense for him. And we probably would have seen a lot more of it. But, we got enough of a taste. We got enough tape. There was the 49ers game. There were a couple of nice throws. There's the throw that he made to Jesper Horsted in Las Vegas. There's a lot of stuff that you can go back and be like, okay, this guy, he's accurate. He's good with the deep ball. We're good. At some point, you're just like, okay, we don't need to see anymore. Just shut him down. We're firing the coach anyways. So I'm optimistic that way. And I think that, this will bleed itself into this season with a game plan that's suited for his skills. So I think his rookie year could have been better, but he's still they won 6 games. And I know he was 2-9, but you know what? He had late leads against the 49ers, the Ravens, or at least tied the 49ers and the Steelers. He was putting the Bears in positions to win. And, if the Bears defense would have made a stop in that one game against Green Bay, he would have been given the ball with an opportunity to win the game. So, to put them ahead, the defense probably would have let Rodgers drive down and score. But, I think there was enough there. And for people just to be so dismissive of his rookie season just baffles me. But then I remember too, people thought that Joey Burrow was a bust going into last year. There are people concerned about him. So I'm not going to worry too much about it.
How big of a jump do you expect from Fields come this year with the right game plan?
I think that there could be a significant jump. I don't think that we'll ever see somebody take the field and light it up like Justin Herbert. Maybe we will, but I think that's such a lightning in the bottle situation that it's not fair to compare other quarterbacks to that. But I do believe that given a chance, given with a better offensive scheme, tailor-made to his skills, they're going to do more play action. They're going to do more play action. He's one of the better, just look at the statistics, on play action, one of the best, on throws outside of the pocket, one of the best, deep balls, one of the best. And I know somebody on Twitter's like, well, once people see this on film, aren't they going to try to stop it? I'm like, well, yeah, I guess that's everything. We've had plenty of film on Aaron Rodgers. People don't seem to be able to stop that, or Josh Allen or players like that. You see the film, they try to stop it. It's not like teams are not trying. So I think that given the right opportunities, he is going to go out there and he's going to make plays, and he can still make plays with his legs. You know, you think about the tying touchdown against San Francisco last year. That was a question on the internet as well. It's like, what quarterbacks make this play? Like watching this, it's the kind of play where Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen are probably the only two guys. People said Kyler Murray, and I'm like, honestly, I don't think this is going to be a hot take. I'm like, I love Kyler Murray. He's not the athlete Justin Fields is. It's not like Kyler Murray, like he's good, but like Justin Fields is an elite level talent that only is matched by Josh Allen and by Lamar Jackson. Even Patrick Mahomes is not in his category either. Those guys are separate. Those guys are special. So he's going to make those plays too. He's already got those. Like, that's fine. I think where the biggest thing where he can see the most improvement is with the defense being better. And I know a lot of people look at, you know, using 2 first-round or 2 second-round draft picks on the defensive secondary is a detriment to Justin Fields. I see that in the contrary. I see a team that blew a lot of late leads. I saw a team that could not stop teams. And when you put your quarterback into a situation where all of his drives are starting from the 15, well, it's going to be very difficult to make much improvement. But if you start giving him shorter fields, if you start playing better on special teams, that's going to present itself an opportunity for Justin Fields to make more plays. And, you know, if he can run the ball a little bit more, if the defense is not putting them into a situation where they automatically have to throw the ball, where that would take away the play action pass, then it's only going to benefit him. So I really like the way that they constructed it. And I'll be honest with you, before the draft, I was adamant about let's just draft all offense. I don't care about defense anymore. Let's just draft offense. And then after the Thursday night and all those receivers went off the board, I looked at it and we did the podcast the next day. And I said, you know what? We're going to draft a corner. We're just going to do it. I didn't think that Kyler Gordon was going to be available. I thought he would have been off the board far before we picked at 39. And I thought we were going to end up with a guy who's in Minnesota now. But I said, we're going to take a corner. Maybe we'll take a receiver with the second one. But I love Gordon. I love Brisker. I fell in love with him. Woo, that's a good football player. I was not familiar enough with him. When I was doing my mock draft with a twist, he was a borderline first round guy. I'm pretty sure he was still in Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. So I had seen a little bit of him, but I really did a deep dive once he was selected by the Bears. I really love it. I love having a rebuilt secondary. And I think when you look at the secondary, when you look at what they did with a lot of the players that they drafted, how well they performed on special teams, not only just Velus Jones, but special teams wise, these guys are just they're good. And I think if you can start and do a quick rebuild of the defense and special teams, along with drafting all those offensive linemen. I mean, they drafted a number of offensive linemen to go along with the draft of last year, where you hopefully picked your 2 bookend tackles. Well, I think they did a really nice job, and they've really set themselves up to be in a position to really strike next season. And I think that this is the thing that I think that if you want to look at a timeline of what's an acceptable timeline, what's a realistic timeline? If you look at what the Philadelphia Eagles did last season, now they drafted Devonta Smith, so that was, a plus level talent, but the Bears were not in a position to draft somebody of that caliber. They grabbed Velus Jones, who I think has a very specific role in mind. He's not coming in to be a number 1 wide receiver, but he's there to be a weapon. And I think that if the Bears defense is good and the special teams are good, they're going to hover somewhere between 8 to 10, 8 to 11 wins, could possibly sneak into the playoffs, considering the NFC's down compared to the AFC. And when you think about it, next year, when players like Deebo Samuel, but they probably wouldn't go after him, but like DK Metcalf, some of these other wide receivers could possibly come available. Well, the Bears will be in a position then. They'll have a first round pick to trade if a Tyreek Hill type of player becomes available next season. The Bears can now be in the mix for it. And if the Bears show enough improvement, then those players will be more willing to accept the trade to Chicago. Although I still think that Chicago has a pretty decent reputation around the league. Last year, Russell Wilson selected them as one of 4 places he would have gone. So I think that there could be a chance. And if somebody gets upset, if Cortland Sutton doesn't work out in Denver, or Tim Patrick, or some of these guys, like, there's going to be wide receivers available. The Bears will be able to grow it next year. So I think this is a building year, with 2023 being more of the, like, this is when we fully deploy. The offense is completely operational. It's like we're seeing the Death Star, like right when it was right over Jeddah or Scarif. But the following year will be like when the Death Star approaches Alderaan. So it'll be a little bit better. I'm glad I made a cube with my hand to really sell that point home. But yeah, I guess that was a long-winded answer to a very short question.
What do you think about their wide receiving room now? Is it enough at least to help Justin Fields develop for this year? Then next season they could sign somebody or acquire somebody and make it really good.
I honestly believe that. I look at, what Luke Getsy did last year in Green Bay, and obviously Devontae Adams is A+ level talent. I'm not comparing Darnell Mooney to Devontae Adams, but if you look at the way the targets were distributed, it was all funneled to their number 1 wide receiver. Their tight end, Bob Tunyon, got into the mix as well, though Bob Tunyon was more of a factor 2 years ago. But if Cole Kmet can come in and do the Bob Tunyon thing, that's fine. You have guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield. David Montgomery can catch. Khalil Herbert can obviously catch. The kid that they drafted this year is a great receiver out of the backfield. Byron Pringle is enough of he can match the production that Alan Lazard gave out last year for the Packers. So I'm like, okay, that's fair. And then Velus, my new best friend, I got to post the video. I have a great video with Velus Jones that I need to start. I need to unleash that on the world because people need to see it. I think that he's going to come in and he's going to make plays. I don't think that he's going to be the kind of guy that, your fantasy team is going to rely on week in and week out, but he's going to make 5 or 6 YouTube style plays this season. He's going to score some touchdowns. He's going to make some wow plays. He's going to be a factor in special teams. And I think he's going to help this ball club. So I do think that, is it enough to win the Super Bowl? No. But is it enough to see development out of Justin Fields? Absolutely.
What most concerns you about Fields right now?
I would like to see him cut down on the turnovers. I think that's my biggest issue. The Vikings fans love to hate on Justin Fields, which is amazing. Why doesn't everybody hate the Packers as much? Like, they hate us. I guess we're still, even though the Packers are the current standard bearer, we're still the long team. We're still like the kings of the North, or the Central back in the day, or the East, whatever it was. This division has changed so much. It's like, yeah, this is a blip. Like, you look at the history of the world, this is a very small blip for the Packers, and they're one Aaron Rodgers retirement away from irrelevancy once again, which is fine, which is where they belong. I will say Justin Fields cutting down on the turnovers. There were times where you're like, what is happening? Why are you carrying the ball like that? There was a game, I think it was the one against the Vikings. That's such a sloppy play. And listen, I can love Justin Fields and be very optimistic about him, but you have to cut that out. And there have been young players who have made mistakes like that on the NFL level. And I think that is going to be something that they work on going into camp. And if anything that we've seen, from the snippets that we're catching from OTAs or anything like that, this coaching staff seems very involved. And it feels like they're working on, his drop step, shortening his motion. They're also, I'm sure working on, protect that football at all costs. Get rid of it. But, getting rid of it will do wonders for that. also, but when you're a runner, you got to make sure that you're protecting that football. And hopefully bring in Tom Coughlin, teach him how to carry the football as a runner. I don't know, bring him in for a day. That's a reasonable thing. I know that we saw on Twitter, who was it? Was it Infante? I don't know. I don't want to call out. No, it wasn't. No, I think it was Kluge. I don't know. I'm not now I'm smearing people who probably don't deserve it, or they probably do deserve it. If not for this, then for other reasons. Where somebody is like, look at the double tap on this throw that they, nice little video they put out there. And I'm like, the double tap was the set, like, to get him open like that. Like, he threaded the needle to Byron Pringle, and the defender's right there. He has to allow him some separation. Like, you see that a lot. Like, quarterbacks do that kind of stuff, the double tap or whatever. Unless we see that be a problem in a game, but God, Justin knows how to really thread the needle. He does a great job of it. And if he's doing it to set his timing and he doesn't get the ball stripped, I think it's fine. So yeah, I guess that would be the number one thing. Just listen, hold on to the football. Don't needlessly turn the ball over. Interceptions happen, but fumbles are the one thing for a quarterback that I just don't appreciate.
Adam Rank, still here on Sports Talk Chicago. Adam, a few more questions before we finish up. First off, the Sick Podcast. How's it been going?
Oh my God. It's been going pretty well. We've had a nice little run of guests lately. By the way, we got to get you on at some point. I'm remiss in not having you on, but listen, we had Jim McMahon on. So you got bumped for Jim McMahon. We had Kari Blasingame, who's now a friend of the show. Jim was a great, he popped in. That meant a lot to me because, growing up with Bears fans, Jim McMahon was one of my dad's favorite players. So that was, I don't know, there's just special moments like that. Jim was eating a hamburger. I didn't care, whatever. People got upset about that. I'm like, do you know anything about Jim McMahon? I would have been pissed if he wasn't eating a hamburger, drinking a beer, or doing whatever. Jim McMahon can do whatever he wants. Kari was awesome. We'll have him on in the near future. We're going to have Clay Harbor. He's going to join us this week, or depending on when you're listening to this show, he might have already been on. Go and download that. Very excited about Clay Harbor. Not only was he a That Helps No One all-star for years, loved, big Clay Harbor guy, because it allowed me to recite the lyrics to New Order's Blue Monday. I see a ship in the Clay Harbor, which is stupid, but as a kid who likes that old. I heard the old, I like First Wave on Sirius, but in any of, I shouldn't have mentioned. No, we hate satellite radio. Terrestrial radio is where it's at, everybody. So we had that. I think actually our best guest has been Ill Will. That guy dominated. So we've been doing pretty good with our guests. And obviously we have people from the Tape Never Lies Network, Bear Down Cuz, everybody's familiar with. And we try to reach out and get it. Brian Perez will be on soon. We try to reach out. If you follow Bears Twitter, we try to bring on those standouts, because I think it's cool to give people an opportunity to come speak their minds. It's kind of an echo chamber at times, but we'll bring in Tom Grossi again. Still try to get Aaron Nagler on at some point. Some of the hated Packer guys, but they're good guys. And of course, John, we'll have you on soon. So it's been going well. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for allowing me to plug it here.
Oh, of course, anytime. And before we finish up, last question. What's the funniest Bears moment you've been a part of?
The funniest Bears moment was a time where Kyle Long was at the NFL Network, and he walked in, and I got two of them. If I have time, I want to share two of them, because I just thought of another one because of his former teammate. So Kyle Long walked in, and I was like, he's tall. He's massive. He's like, and he's like, hey, Adam. And I'm like, And he's like, oh, I know who you are. And you're like, oh my God. We followed each other. Well, we followed each other on Twitter, and, but he was super cool, but he saw my face that I was in stunned disbelief, but it was very cool. We had a good time. We did a show. I made him recreate his father's scene from Broken Arrow, where he's pretending that the nuclear bomb went off and he had the razor and the whole thing. I got to play Travolta. So that was pretty awesome. Another time too is we hoodwinked Maurice Jones-Drew, who is legitimately best friends with Matt Forte, but we were doing a show at the Super Bowl, we were playing a game called Who is Matt Forte's Best Friend? And it was a newlywed game type of situation where we're trying to like, hey, what's Matt Forte's favorite food? Blah, blah, blah. And so we get to the end. And then I was like, let's just say I was 50 points down. So they said, for 100 points, write down this answer. When is Matt Forte's birthday? And MJD did not know. Matt Forte and I have the same birthday, so I obviously knew. So then we flipped it over, December 10th, and MJD was so pissed. Like, how would I know I'm like, you don't know your friend's birthday? Like a whole thing. And Forte bought into the whole thing. He's like, well, sorry, Maurice. He's like, Adam's my best friend, came over and gave me a hug. It was hilarious. It was hilarious that he bought into it. We didn't even prep him for that part of it. So it was a surprise, but Matt went with it. That was a good moment. It was a lot of fun. He's a good guy. I know that I see him around Chicago doing some of the TV shows and stuff. He's very good at that too. So I love I always love catching that stuff. We need to see more of him. It broke my heart when he went to the Jets. I did take a photo with him. When he went to the Jets, our stage manager just happened to have a Jets hat, was just wearing one. Because our stage manager wears different hats for every team. Like, oh my God, you're wearing a Jets hat. It's perfect. Put on the Jets hat, took a photo with Forte. The last time I ever wore a Jets hat, but it was for Matt. So I felt it was worth it, but that was it. I think that game, who is Matt Forte's best friend, that I won just because I knew his birthday.
Adam, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure. Best wishes over at NFL Network and the SIP podcast, and looking forward to the next time we chat as well.
Yeah, me too. So, well, hopefully the next time it'll be on the Sick podcast, but we'll get you coming in soon. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And we'll talk soon.